Hello and welcome to our 5 minutes with Ekaterina war vlog about Dnipro, the central Ukraine. The situation in Dnipro itself now is almost the same as it used to be 2 weeks ago when we were talking the previous time, but the situation in the region is changing and changing for the worse, regretfully. The Russians advance and more land of Dnipro region itself becomes a gray zone. And you can check it going to the resource called Deep State. That's not an advertisement, that's something that I do and that the journalists are doing usually. So on this Deep States map, you will see that already territories inside of Dnipro region are shown as either gray or the contested area. Which is very depressing, and also there are some communities in Dnipro region that are enlisted as the obligatory places to be evacuated, and the evacuation from this area started and intensified. The level of this relocation, forcibly moving of the population, it's not forcibly meaning that Ukrainian police are moving them forcibly meaning because of the military actions and because of the Russians. They didn't want to move. And they need to go through the evacuation centers, and the situation is so bad that evacuation centers are now overloaded, and it's at least 110% of their capacity. Some people sleep in the corridors, some people sleep in the tents outside because it's summer, it's possible, but usually it's not something that we would do. So these families are not staying in Dnipro itself. They are moved to the western parts of Ukraine because Dnipro city is not considered to be a safe area anymore. And in this regard, it was very strange for me to read recently the post from the head of deputies of the Dnipro Regional Council. And he was posting on Facebook page that the front line will stop at some point and there will be some negotiations going on, and as a result Ukrainian territories probably will be divided, and Dnipro will become the border between Dnipro region will become the border region between the peaceful part of Ukraine and Russians, and it will be in the constant threat, so no investors will come, the population will flee, and we will become the next Transnistria or the next Abkhazia, which is in constant threat of further Russian occupation and further Russian invasion. And for us reading this, looking at this, it's depressing, especially when it's somebody official talking about it in that way. I hope that situation will change because the Ukrainian army is still fighting, and I don't believe in the success of negotiations in Alaska and then in Washington or any further negotiations, because I think that they're just the way Russia is trying to buy more time to gather more resources and to attack more regions rather than really to come to the peaceful agreement and do something to stop the war. Because for Russians to stop the war is just to withdraw their forces to the border of Ukraine and just stay at home. If they were willing to negotiate and if they were willing to end this war, they would just take their things and go home. And that's the bottom line of each and every negotiation. It's not negotiation, it's just the political games in order to lift sanctions, to buy time, to gain money, to continue the war. That's my opinion. Let's see what happens. If I'm wrong, we will discuss it later. But that's how I see what's happening right now. And for the situation around Pokrovsk, which we were discussing the previous time, the situation stabilized, and if you look at the map, you will see that some areas that were previously occupied by Russians, they are regained, so the Ukrainian army is taking back some territories, and there is a hope that the town itself will be held in Ukrainian side, in Ukrainian hands. This town is very important for the future defense, and if the situation allows for the deoccupation, for the liberation of the occupied territories. So that's the situation overall, and as I promised you already a few times, I wanted today to stop a little bit on the economical part of the situation and on what's happening with salaries, what's happening with the level of life, why there will be some refugees that are leaving Dnipro for the economic reasons. One of the reasons I already told you is the one that this official is saying that there is a big risk that investors will not come, the new businesses will not open, and Dnipro, which used to be a business center in the first place, it was a banking center with the center of the Privatbank, which is a huge bank in Ukraine, and also with other banks, with offices everywhere, which were conducting normal activity. So that's something that in the future might not be the case, and it's not only when the officials say you understand it better, but you don't need to be very smart to see that it's now happening, because people are afraid to invest anything here, knowing that Russians would like to occupy it badly and that they're advancing towards the city. And that means that the unemployment is pretty much near. Right now, if you look at the job openings, you would see that there are many job openings, and it's not true that you cannot find a job, but there are two parts of this. The first part is economic, is the salary itself, because in order to go for work, you need to travel there, you need to buy food, you need to buy maybe sometimes clothing a little bit better than the clothing that you would wear at home. I know it very well because during COVID I worked from home and I stayed at home a lot, and I really didn't need any fancy clothing. I didn't spend any money for it, and then your old clothing is getting small, and you just cannot wear it anymore. So in order to go for work, you do need to update your clothing, like to wear something a little bit better than you would wear at home. So in order to get to work, you will have some expenses. And the problem is that the most openings, they would barely cover these expenses connected to work, like traveling, lunch there, because it would be also more expensive than at home, even with lunch box, and then clothing. And in the end of the month, you will see that you don't have much left, and you wouldn't be able even cover your utilities. In numbers, it sounds like, so the $1 is about 40 Ukrainian hryvnias. And if you work as a seller, if you're a woman and you work as a seller somewhere, you will make 100 hryvnias per hour, or about 1,000, maybe a little bit more, about 1,000 hryvnias a day. And you will not work the full month, which means that you will have 15,000 hryvnias a month, and that's a pretty normal salary for not very qualified worker in Dnipro, like the shop seller, maybe the what can you do as well? Maybe a low-level administrator, maybe working in the hotel. So you will have something between 15,000 and 20,000 hryvnias, and let's count as if it were like 20,000 hryvnias. So you will have about $200 a month. So it's like $180 to $200 a month. And at the same time, if you don't have your own apartment, you will have to pay rent, and the rent will be something between 8,000 and 15,000 a month. So you will usually have to give your whole salary just to rent an apartment here. And let's imagine that you live as a family, and there are two working people. If you're a man, you used to be able to have $1,000, for example, and that will be normal before the war. And now it's not the case, so you will have 30,000 hryvnias, which would be obviously less than $1,000. It will be like, if it's $800, you're fine. Yeah. I might be wrong with numbers because I'm very bad in math, but divide hryvnias on 40 and you'll get your number. So you will have now probably will have somewhere like 25,000 hryvnias. And when I'm saying men and women, we do have the gender pay gap. In Ukraine, it's traditional. So the women will make less money even if they try their best. So you have this 15,000 that goes to the renting of the apartment, and then you will have from 20 to 30,000 to provide the family, and that's how families try to survive. And the prices in the shops, they are almost European prices, the same. Some prices are the same as in the United Kingdom for food, I mean. And the food is very expensive, so you will have to spend practically all your salary just for food, and maybe you have some clothing. So sometimes the offered salary will be like way less if you work as an educator at school, and if it's your first year of work and you don't have any bonuses, you will have 10,000 hryvnias, which is less than renting an apartment, and it makes it impossible for you to live alone, for example. If you have your own apartment, you still need to pay utilities, but it's better. But where from would you take this own apartment, especially if you had to relocate here from other regions? So that means that often the salaries that are offered, they are not enough to cover the basic needs of people. And the government support, subsidies, and similar support, they are not covering the most people, and that means that a lot of people are living behind the line of need and behind the poverty line. So that's what's happening. So prices go up, and then the salaries go down, and you don't have any bonuses, and you don't have so-called good, well-qualified job, because as a well-qualified specialist, you will not have enough places. For example, the teaching positions in the universities, the universities are reducing such jobs because the students actually going abroad. They would prefer to go abroad when they have more chances to have better jobs and to stay in the country of destination. And if they're men, if they're young men, not everybody wants to serve in the army, and that's the way not to be recruited. So they try to leave the country before the age of recruitment. It's now you can leave before 18, but the government is going to do it 22 to change it. So if you leave before 22, you can stay abroad and not be conscripted. And also there are some positions in the civilian area where you can have the reservation and you wouldn't go to the army because your position is important. For example, if you work in the food business or if you do something, some physically intensive labor that is needed to support this, to sustain the community, then you might be reserved. So in these positions are usually filled. But for example, the company that is baking bread, the bakeries now have the problem with the drivers. And actually a lot of people have the problem with the drivers because the drivers don't make much money, and they are usually not having this reservation from the army, so they can be conscripted from their job places. And that happens a lot also. If you are officially working as a man, the military office can come to work and conscript you from them. So men who don't want to serve in the, men who want to serve, let's start with this. There's a big part of people, a big part of men who want to serve in the army, and they just go and they enroll into army. The salaries there wouldn't be great either, unless you're at the military frontline position. You will have 30,000 hryvnias. It's not a big deal. And barely you can make it here in this normal circumstances. You would be able to, but now you cannot do it here. So it's more than the average man will do. Like will make, but it's not a big money. It's less than $1,000. And then if you're fighting in the front line, you will have 100,000. But it's a little bit more than $2,000 and. $2,000 for risking your life, I mean, you wouldn't do it unless you have some ideological background and you understand that you're defending your land and you're defending your home. So the frontline salary, it will be like $2,000, a little bit more, again, 100,000 hryvnias, and then there will be non-combat positions in the army that will be only 30,000 hryvnias, which is less than $1,000. And then here you will have 15,000 hryvnias as a woman, which is effectively nothing. and you do need to spend almost all this money for supporting yourself, and usually you will need more. So that's the economic situation. If you look at it from the person, there is a way more difficult situation with old people. Most of the pensions, so people were working and they were promised to have a good pension from the government, but most of the governmental pensions are less than 8,000 hryvnias. It is the line that is officially drawn as the absolute minimum by the Ukrainian government. And I don't know any grannies around me who will have more than 7. And then I know a few who have 4,000 hryvnias. And if you're disabled, if you're older, you will have to buy your medicines, and you will have to buy the first hygiene, you will have to buy fodder, you will have sometimes to buy diapers, and the pack of diapers will be 800 hryvnias, and then you have like 4,000 as your pension, so you don't have any means to provide yourself. That's why it's very important that people send the help here, but make sure that if you do it, make sure that you send the help to the trustable organization, not directly to the people in need, because also there are a lot of scammers just trying to use the situation. But it's pretty normal. It's what's happening everywhere in such positions. So that's maybe it was not very structured, but that's the ideas of what money people have and what way of life they might sustain. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment box, and I'll try either to answer there, or maybe I'll record another video to make it more maybe focused on some specific questions. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your help, for all your support. And I'm recording this video on the 23rd of August. Tomorrow is the Independence Day of Ukraine, so happy Independence Day to everybody. Big thank you to the Ukrainian army, to each and every soldier who is fighting for our freedom. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to meet you very soon under better circumstances. Goodbye for now.